Hey, are you struggling with your blues solos? Today I'm going to show you how creating your ideas around simple shapes can change everything for your guitar playing. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to this episode of the Play Guitar Podcast. I'm Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitar player that you always wanted to be. If you are new here, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and check out the description for all of the links from the show. So we have another topic that is generated from one of our lick lessons on YouTube. This is experimenting with this, and it's gone really well so far. You can always let me know what you think about it. If you're a member of the Facebook group, just go on up there and put a post up and let me know what you think. What we're doing today is getting into the idea of using shapes on the guitar. If you're coming here looking for the lesson, this is not the lesson. This is the deep dive. We're going to talk about the learning part of this. How can we change things moving forward, not just learn a bunch of licks right here. But if you're looking for the licks, click on the link that I have for you right here and head on over there, check that out, and then come right back here and we can get into it a little bit more. And you can see how you can take those ideas from the licks and we'll use it in everything that you play moving forward. So we're talking about shapes on the guitar. If you think about it, it's all shapes. Everything we're doing are patterns and shapes. And it's on a grid. We're playing on graph paper, right? We've got lines that go up. Those are our strings. And they're intersected by lines that go across. Those are our frets. And what goes on those lines, for us, is pretty important. From day one, you learn that when something looks a certain way, it has a certain sound. For example, a D major chord. To me, that's the one that's a triangle. I was like, hey, that's a triangle. I know triangle, and it sounds like a D major chord. And when I hear a song that someone's playing that D chord, do you do this? It sounds, I can picture that shape in my head when I hear that sound. So, hey, you get skilled at this. Over time, you get used to it. But for some reason, when we work all the way through, we get through beginner, we get through intermediate, we're getting into solos, then we start to learn all these scale patterns. For some reason, when we start to learn the scale patterns, and we need to get creative with them, we don't use this skill anymore. We ditch it. I don't know why that is. I have an idea. I think we just stop short for that, and we just relate the whole scale pattern to the key that we're in. You know, the YouTube way of teaching, which is like, hey, it's the key of A, play the A scale, you're good to go, right? And you know, when I'm in A, I play this pattern. But what we're missing is that the good stuff, the basic sounds, the building blocks that we'll use to come up with new licks, new songs, new melodies. They're not from playing the whole pattern. The usable sounds are in between, inside them. It's like going from one of those dots and pick another one, going to that one. That distance right there is important. It's inside the patterns that we need to be using. It's almost like all those little dots that you learn, the scale patterns on the fretboard, they're like our alphabet. Those are all the letters that we have. And when you solo and just play up and down the scales, it's like you're trying to create words, and you're trying to create sentences with every letter in the alphabet every single time. If you think about it that way, it makes a little bit of sense why when you approach it that way, it's not very musical. And once you realize you're working way harder than you have to, you're using way too many notes to get sounds, effective sounds that actually communicate with other people, then you start to see improvement in your playing, in your soloing with a lot less effort. So this week, the video I put out, it's a lick video, but it's all about shapes on the guitar. Common shapes I use when I'm playing blues. And I strongly suggest you check it out. You'll start to see how to play better, stronger, and faster with these. That's from the $6 Million Man, all right? We've rebuilt him. He's better, stronger. He's using shapes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes that I'm talking about. And these are common shapes that you have probably noticed in your playing as you're going through these, but didn't realize you should stop and kind of hang out there and create some ideas. And then I went through all of them, and I might go through some of them here to make my point a little bit about what you should be paying attention to. But when you play these shapes, you're really doing something called an interval. So what is an interval? An interval is a distance between two notes. Why is that important? Why is it important to know the distance between two notes? Because those distances are sounds. We mix and match those. You hear things like a major third, a perfect fourth, a dominant 7, flat 7, a major 7. Those all tell you how far away two notes are from each other. And, if you start to hear it, if you play two notes on the piano that are right next to it, a black and a white key, you'll get something. I love playing horrible things on the podcast. Are you driving? That wasn't a horn. That was me. And when you get those, two notes that are so close together, that is a minor second. That is our most dense interval, distance between two notes. After that, well, what if we did a major second? That's like the second degree of a major scale. That'd be an A and a B. Starting to sound a little bit more familiar. Banging on two white keys on the piano instead of the white and the black key there next to each other, right? Go up one more. That's the distance of a minor third. The minor third, you hear it in minor pentatonic, in chords that are minor. That's the root in the minor third. The next is the major third. We hear that all the time. Every time you play a C major, in this case, an A major chord, you hear that sound. The next distance apart, all I'm doing is I'm taking that one note and getting it farther and farther and farther away from the tonic note, the bass note. Now, if we go up one more, that's a sharp 4, flat 5. It's called a tritone. It has an awful history to this interval right here. And you can look it up sometime if you want to. I won't get into it today. Next would be an A going to an E. That's a 5th. That's like a power chord, strong. Then next is an A going to an F. That's a minor 6. And you can play these together or one at a time. One at a time, you might hear this in melodies that you've heard. That's the minor 6. Now one higher, that would be A to F sharp. That's the major 6th. One more, A to G. That's a dominant 7th, right? So if I revoice this, let's see here. That's the sound you hear in dominant 7th chords, this kind of a value. And then we have A to G sharp. That's called a major 7th. That's another one of these intervals that they're right next to each other. Before we did an A note and then the note that's one higher than them. That was our minor 2nd. This is an A note and one that's 1/2 step lower than that, the G sharp. So that's very dissonant as well too, but in a different way. So these are our intervals that we have. All the music that you listen to, Western music that uses the 12 tones here, right? All of Western music is built on these intervals. All the chords, all the melodies, all the bass lines, all the fills, everything we have. These are the different sounds we have to use. We can use them together like chords. We can use them from going from one note to the next note in linear, like in guitar solos, in bass lines, in vocal melodies. And each of these, you just heard them. They all have a different quality. You might be able to hear certain songs and certain ideas that you recognize in what I just played right there, which was the most rudimentary way to play them, just straight out, not in a musical context. So these intervals are very important. And where I'm going with this is that when we play lead guitar, especially if you're improvising, these are your colors. You have these at your disposal if you can wrap your head around how to get them. And if you've ever noticed, if you've ever improvised, especially if you're doing it in front of an audience, time moves a little differently when you're doing that than practicing in your bedroom or in your basement, right? So if you're kind of on the spot and you're expected to come up with something fantastic, and they go, okay, ready, 1, 2, ready, go. And it's like deer in the headlights at that point, right? So how can I remember all of those different intervals? They're in my scale patterns. If I want to jump up to a high note, which note I pick has a quality to it that might be perfect for the song or completely wrong for the song. How can I make an informed decision about that in split-second timing? How do I do that? Well, we talk about playing on autopilot all the time. We talk about going through our daily practices and getting our chords and our scale patterns and all of these things. We talk about getting them down so well that we don't have to think about them anymore. So we can smile and have fun playing music instead of worrying the whole time if we remember everything that we're trying to do. If you're always struggling to remember what you're trying to do, you don't have enough brain power to listen and then make decisions on what you're listening and get creative in those things. So we have another tool on the guitar, and it's wonderful that the guitar is so visual. You knew it the first time you learned a C chord or a D chord or a G chord. They have certain shapes that when you play those shapes, they create a certain sound. When you got into bar chords, you took those shapes from the open positions and moved them around. Used your first finger where the nut would be, right, for the bar chords, and those shapes are going to give you a major type sound. They put all the intervals that we were talking about in place for you, similar to those open position chords. Then we get into scales, and this is where everything falls apart. We're going, okay, it's time to play. That's not interesting. That sounds like practice right there. So we're going to try and get these intervals under our fingers in certain ways. Well, let's go back to what we did in the beginning. What we did in the beginning was we saw a shape and we equated a sound with that shape. That's what I'm doing here. In the blues, we have certain shapes. The main scale that we're going to use is the minor pentatonic scale. And I take some of these shapes right from the minor pentatonic scale. These are shapes that you're playing. 2 notes in that minor pentatonic scale. This is one. And this is one. And then I take shapes from the chord itself. So I'm taking some of the important intervals from the chord and from the scale pattern, and I'm using those to create licks around. Or actually just using the shapes themselves, going from one to the other to the other. And if you take a listen to the lick video, if you try these things out, you see it's not too difficult to come up with something that targets chords, the thing that a lot of people have a problem with, by using very simple shapes. So how do we get this stuff on autopilot? How can we use certain shapes in our playing and know that every time we go there, we're going to get a certain sound? So the first shape that I use, this is at the 7th fret on the A string, and then the 5th fret on the D string. And in the key of A, which is what we're playing in today, that is the 5th going to the flat 7th. Those are arpeggio notes. Those are chord tones to this chord here. So it's an inside sound. There it is, right there. I liked playing it 2-3 times. Ending on that dominant 7 makes my ear want to go to the tonic of this, the root of this chord. So when I would practice, if I had a I'd try it out over all of the different chords in the blues. And then I'd say, okay, well, that's a cool shape there. And it sounds pretty good. What if I did it on the next set of strings? Ooh, that's different. It uses a different interval when I use it on the D string and the G string. What sounds one way on the A and the D string, that shape sounds a little bit differently on the D and G strings. Now we've got a root note for the A7. That's an A. And then our 1 string over and 2 frets back shape now is playing the minor third. So instead of playing the upper notes of an arpeggio, it's playing the lower notes of a minor arpeggio. Of course, we have a major chord. So for blues, we could resolve right there. So I could make a little lick around both of those shapes. All I did was the same shape on one set of strings and then moved it over to another set of strings. Here, if we move it over another set of strings, again, this is the notes we get. Now that's the 4th going to the 5th in A. We generally will bend that note. You hear that an awful lot in blues. So I might go. That's a cool lick for blues, and it uses that shape 3 different ways across the neck of the guitar. So what might be cool for you to do is turn on a backing track, a blues backing track, pick out a shape from your scale pattern or from your chord notes, and try moving it around, starting on different notes of the scale, and see which ones work and which ones don't. You might stumble across something. One of the other ones that we did is this shape here. This is a diagonal 1 string over and 1 fret back. So it's kind of a backwards leaning diagonal line. So this would be at the 5th fret on the low string, on the low E string, and then the 4th fret on the A string. Right next to each other, but 1 fret back. In that space, I have that's a root note and a major third. It's a very solid sound. It's an interval of a major third. It's about as inside as you can get, right? So when we play over a dominant 7th chord, if I played that first shape, and then I finished it off with this one, it's almost like putting a period at the end of the sentence. I matched the chord now. Even though the other ones were playing minor pentatonic intense, this one comes in and matches the chord perfectly. It's very interesting. It's very interesting how to use these things. What we're doing is we're targeting chords and scales and using basic shapes as a crutch. Once you know what the interval sounds like, and we did major third and we did really minor third. Those are the 2 shapes that we used. Once you get those in your head, under your fingers, they never leave you. it's like you have a painter's palette and you have different colors that you can use, and you can pull out these shapes anytime that you want, and know, okay, well, if I do that off of the root note, it's going to sound this way. If I do it off of the G string, maybe it sounds a little different. Eddie Van Halen was a big shape user. He would use the shape in his scale patterns, 1 2 4 1 2 4 1 2 4 1 2 4 1 2 4, all the way across the guitar. What do they call it? The Franken scale? I don't know. The Eddie Van Halen scale is what it's. But some of those notes would work well, and other ones, when you kept that pattern, they may not have worked so well. But he did it in a way that they were tense. They were resolving. Even though they were outside notes, they would resolve to the right notes. And he had a good ear where he could do that. Using these shapes is kind of a bridge between the two. You can play your scales, but then when you want to get a certain sound, use a shape. Play these scales, get a sound, use the shape. So a couple things for you this week. I would love for you to do a little improv. Maybe go to YouTube, get a blues backing track, right? Take your scale pattern, pick two of the notes, and listen to what they sound like. Listen to the distance between them. What does it remind you of? What melodies does it remind you of? What songs does it remind you of? And then head over to the video that's the companion to this episode, and go through some of the shapes that I found and see, maybe you get some new ideas from those things. But try realizing that the intervals that we're going to use for improv and for songwriting and for melody writing are all under your fingers. They're coming from either the chords or they're coming from the scales. And it's something that you can do as a beginner. Your first scale that you ever learn, start listening to the distances between the notes and play it while a backing track is going on. Do a little ear training with it as well too. Okay, that will be a lot of fun to hear back from everybody to what this was, any light bulb moments that come off from using these small shapes. I just wanted to mention, in case you didn't know, if you go over to playguitaracademy.com, if you want to try out being a member, right now it's like $1 for 14 days. You can get all of the tabs, the backing tracks, the guitar profiles for all of these weekly lick videos, plus my entire roadmap. It takes you from beginner to advanced all the way through their weekly lessons. So you have some structure to your practice. We also have weekly Q&As on Wednesdays, monthly master classes, and it's all for that $1 14-day trial. And I would love to see you as a member. We could just do a little hanging out. There's going to be a little bit more hanging out going on pretty soon. And I'm going to call it. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar podcast. Make sure to hit the button below to subscribe to the show. And if you have benefited from this podcast, please leave a favorable Apple Podcasts iTunes review. It's the best way to make sure we get this very valuable content to more guitar players around the world. And if more help, structure, and results in your guitar playing sound good to you, what are you waiting for? Head over there, join up, and we'll hang out and learn a bunch of guitar stuff. I will see you next week, and have a good one. Bye-bye.